Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Chalk Talk here on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Steelers YouTube channel. Chris Halicke here, going to break down some film on Mason Rudolph from 2024, not in the Steelers uniform. I did this on our site, dkpittsburghsports.com, a while back, with a lot more detail when it came to a lot of the advanced stats and metrics and stuff, and I'll throw in a handful of that, but I'm going to drop the link here in the description below so you can go read it. I urge you to do so, but I did want to kind of visualize some of the stuff from that because obviously you can't really tell straight in those, so I did want to use some of the same clips to help illustrate maybe some of the things where if you did read this, maybe better visualize it for you. If you didn't read it, then welcome. Appreciate it. All right, so Mason Rudolph last year threw 10 picks, and a lot of people, obviously will jump out at that and be like, okay, well, that's a problem. But I do want to stress that there were, I think at least three that were, I would not put at the fault of the quarterback. Yeah, it was pretty obvious, and this one right here, right there, tipped off the hands. I mean, come on. I mean, it's a little high, but tips right off the hands. Nothing Rudolph can do about that. Some people might be thinking that that Rudolph is trying to hit this out route right there. It's possible. The only person I could really ask would be Mason himself. And maybe I will. But, just on this, based off of when he's letting go of the football, I mean, if he's really trying to hit that out route, because he starts getting rid of the ball right there. That's the beginning of his throwing motion. That's some serious anticipation. And given the eyes looking back to the quarterback here, I'm just assuming that this is intended for 85 because, I mean, the ball's there being tipped and he's just now getting his head around. I don't think that ball is going to the out. But, of course, he sees this and sees how open he gets, and then and then obviously you get the reaction, and anytime you get that kind of a reaction, it's never good from a receiver especially because he gets open. But either way, this is not on Rudolph. Again, a little high, but it hits you in both hands. If you're playing in the NFL, man, you've got to you got to do that. It wasn't 10 interceptions, but it was 9. I was pulling that up as I was doing this. So, yeah, so 9 interceptions, definitely not his fault. Or 9 interceptions total, 2 not his fault. That's what I get for trying to read and speak at the same time. Another thing about Mason Rudolph that continued to show up in the tape whenever I went back and watched, and in preparation for the Chalk Talk that I did, I watched literally every single drop back of his. It took a long time, but I watched every drop back from 2024. And this play right here is really, really indicative of what he does so well. And that is giving the offensive line the easiest job by being able to create the pocket right there. And he will just stand in there. He's standing. He's starting to that pressure is coming. And he will just stand there and wait. This is not 2019 Mason Rudolph. For everybody who's concerned about Mason Rudolph because of 2019, this right here is proof, because it gets to this point right here where this right here is being pushed in this direction. Now, another terrible arrow for me. I mean, it is a hard push. And he's just standing. He's waiting. He's keeping his eyes up. He's not looking down at the pressure. That was not 2019 Mason Rudolph. And he stands in there, isn't able to step into the throw, is able to find the open guy who's right there sitting in a good hole. Dolphins are in cover, looks like a Tampa 2 actually, because you got this deep, these two covering the deep halves. You got this guy who's kind of taking away that deep middle, but he's not quite far back enough for this to be cover 3, so this does look like Tampa 2. and finds a nice little hole right there, and he sits down in that hole. Rudolph finds it, hits him, moves the chains. You can see down right there that this was third down. Moves the chains, get the completion, move the chains. It's a good pass. But that's the stuff that Rudolph really showed during that stretch in 2023 when he closed out the season for the Steelers, is that he was unflappable in the pocket, and that makes the offensive line's job easier. It allows the offense to develop within structure. And if you can find a quarterback who's willing to stand in that pocket and hold on to the football and make things happen without being rattled by the pressure that might be mounting, you can do a lot more. It raises the floor, pretty much. That's the best way that I can put it. It raises the floor of the entire offense. You find unless just the pass protection is just absolute crap, you're going to deal with a lot more. You're going to stay on schedule a lot more often. And when you hear on schedule, that means you're moving forward every single time you touch the football. That you turn 1st and 10 into 2nd and 6, and you turn 2nd and 6 into 3rd and 3, or you turn 1st and 10 into 2nd and 3, and you turn 2nd and 3 into 1st and 10. You're always moving forward. You're not going from 1st and 10 to 2nd and 13, or going from 2nd and 8 to 3rd and 3rd and 11. Making sure that you're making third down as easy as possible when you do have to face those situations. And so Rudolph does that. He does do that. And this next one right here is a really good example of it. Let me find it here. There we go. Rudolph, again, he can diagnose the holes in coverage for sure, especially zone coverage, obviously. This right here, it looks like a zone blitz from the Bills, because you've got this guy's dropping back, he's going deep. You got this guy going deep, you got this guy going deep. So this looks like with those three back, you got this, you got that. Every time you see that, that's usually cover 3. But then you've got 5 rushing, so that's obviously a blitz, which means then you've got 3 underneath instead of 4, which is what you normally have in cover 3. The hole is obviously right there. We talk about zones. Here are the zones, and you're trying to find those holes in between the zones. That's what you're trying to find. And so right here, he sits in that window. Rudolph again. And, they got the protection there too. I mean, you've got, obviously you got the running back there, so you're ready. You're fully protected. Rudolph can stand there. He can wait for the guy to get open, makes the completion, moves the chains. Again, when it comes to playing within structure, Rudolph can do quite a bit. And actually, it's even better because Rudolph can also do a lot better against the blitz than he actually does when he's not under pressure. Really quick on that. Against the blitz last year, he posted a 92.6 passer rating. That's pretty good. Not the same whenever he's not facing pressure. 76.6 rating when he's not facing pressure. You'd expect it to be the opposite. Some quarterbacks use the blitz to then attack it, because obviously if you're rushing more guys, it's less guys in coverage, which means especially if you're in a zone coverage, you can have these gigantic holes like that. If you're running a zone blitz, if it's a lot of the time a blitz brings man coverage. If you're in man, then you're waiting for your receivers to get open. And if your receivers get open, they can beat man coverage. And the Steelers, by the way, have DK Metcalf, George Pickens, Calvin Austin, guys who are good route runners who can beat man coverage. There you go. That's what you want. There was a couple of occasions where Rudolph made a pretty sensational play, and I want to give him credit for it too, because for those of you who watched the Chalk Talk I did on Aaron Rodgers, definitely wanted to give Rudolph some credit here because, I talked about Rodgers having the great arm, and he still has magic in that arm. I mean, go back and watch the Chalk Doc. But Rudolph here, I mean, you got to play action. You're going to have, a deep option right here. And then you've got kind of this guy sitting here. This is, but then you have this receiver who comes across. And again, you read zone coverage. Actually, this is not zone coverage. This is man coverage. No, this is zone coverage. Never mind. Usually you can watch, like you see this guy, at first he's running with him. And then at some point he passes him off. And this is another tell right here. If you're looking for man or zone. Notice how he passes him off. So, actually, Rudolph was also thrown by that point. But either way, good crosser here. Rudolph has two guys in his face. And he keeps his eyes up, and he finds this guy wide open in the middle. That's not an easy throw. That is thrown against your body, off your back foot. You got to have an arm. And I think we've always kind of known that Mason Rudolph has an arm. Is it an Aaron Rodgers level arm? Well, no. Let's be realistic here. Aaron Rodgers, even at 41 years old, when you are one of the top 3 talents, like arm talents of all time, like pure arm, that doesn't just go away quickly. It doesn't age the same as everybody else. Even so, this is a great throw by Mason Rudolph. Finds the open receiver. They get a chunk play. It's a really, really great play. Couple of things that I wanted to kind of note, and I want to give Rudolph his credit. He can make some very good plays, mainly from the pocket, then the occasional play out of structure or with a guy in his face. But this one right here is kind of a good example of just some of the things that Rudolph can do. Looks open, doesn't he? I mean, bada bing, bada boom. Well, picked off. It's not what you want. And that happens because, well, when you get tunnel vision and you stare down your receiver, the safeties back here, they're pretty good at reading them. And it's too far downfield. The ball doesn't get there with enough zip. He telegraphed it. It wasn't what he needed. That's the kind of stuff that Rudolph does every now and then. He will kind of get a little, I'm not going to say first read happy because he does go through his progressions, but just every now and then it's almost like he predetermines his throws. He's like, I'm definitely going to hit this guy on this deep crosser. That's what I want. We're going to have the right coverage. And he just, again, it plays out that way. It's not what you want, obviously, but it happens. It happens. And it's just one thing that you're going to see from Rudolph. If he's ever playing extended time with the Steelers this season, whether Rodgers comes or doesn't come, you're going to see a lot of the stuff that you're seeing here. And that's kind of what I noticed whenever I was watching these games, watching all these dropbacks was, the talent around him is a lot worse, no doubt. And when he has better talent around him, the numbers are going to be better. But isn't that kind of indicative on the quarterback himself? Like, obviously a quarterback needs weapons, but the truly great ones, I mean, Patrick Mahomes had crap at receiver a couple of years ago and won the Super Bowl. Now, you had Travis Kelce, but Travis Kelce passed his prime, and then all the other receivers were just kind of garbage. And he still makes things happen because he's Patrick Mahomes, because he's the best quarterback in the league right now. When you have crap talent and you're I hate to use the word system quarterback, but you're a quarterback who likes to play within structure and there's not a lot of creativity that happens, whether it be naturally or just because of sheer talent, the numbers are going to struggle because you don't have that talent to get open all the time. I expect if Mason Rudolph plays an extended period of time with the Steelers, I expect his numbers to be better, significantly better than they were in Tennessee, because he's got DK Metcalf, he's got George Pickens, he's got Pat Freiermuth, he's going to have Jalen Warren and Caleb Johnson and Kenneth Gainwell out of the backfield. He's going to have weapons to throw to. And so when throws like this happen right here, where this is just a guy trying to cut inside on a man beater, and he just doesn't beat him. And the throw is a little high and inside, gets tipped, gets intercepted, and some people want to say, well, that was tipped, it shouldn't be. No, but that ball shouldn't be thrown. He's starting to let go of it there, and I understand he's like, when you are starting your throwing motion there and your guy is not open, you are putting your faith in the receiver to win this route, to be able to come up here, break out of this route, and be open. And that was some misplaced faith because he does not get open whatsoever. And that ends up getting picked. One of the things that I wanted to also highlight here, and again, I urge you to go read the Chalk Talk that I did on DKPittsburghSports.com. Rudolph's passer rating was better when he held onto the ball more than 2.5 seconds. That was interesting to me. You would think that if the ball's coming out quick, you're hitting your first read, he's open. Now, again, that could just be sheer lack of talent. Guys aren't getting open. Listen to this. Of 80 quarterbacks who threw at least one pass in under 2.5 seconds, 48 of them posted a passer rating of 90 or better. Rudolph's passer rating in such passes was 75.1, which was 66th of 80. 4 of his 9 interceptions came on these quick throws. That's not good. Now, again, that's not all on Rudolph, like we saw in the first clip. That interception's not his fault. But I expect that number to be higher. And again, with better weapons, I think that number will be higher with the Steelers. And part of that is on the quarterback, too. Rudolph's pass rating when he holds on the ball for longer than 2.5 seconds was 84.4. That's a better passer rating than getting rid of it quickly. If you need to hold on to the ball longer in order to make plays, and you have a young offensive line that's in development, you're going to have Zach Frazier, you're going to have Mason McCormick, Troy Faltanu, Broderick Jones moving over to left tackle. Like, you're going to have a young offensive line that's still in development. You're going to have to dial up some plays that get rid of the ball quickly. It's something that Rudolph is going to something to watch. I'm not going to say he's got to improve on, because again, I think those numbers will get better with the better weapons, but I'm curious to see how it's going to play out. But overwhelming evidence here. Steelers have full faith. Why do they have full faith? Well, because he can play within the system. Because he can play in what Arthur Smith wants to do. Because he will stand in the pocket and he will try to make throws. Let plays develop. That's what Mason Rudolph brings. He raises the floor by doing that. The offense will stay on schedule more often. You're not having to play from behind the sticks too often. And that will allow Arthur Smith to continue to use the entire playbook and not have to go to a small subsection of, man, we're playing out a second and 11 a lot, or we're playing out of 3rd and 10 a lot. You're able to continue to move the ball forward. You'd like to get more chunks, and maybe that'll come naturally if the running game is better. Who knows? But if Mason Rudolph has to play an extended amount of snaps or extended amount of starts, or if he is the starting quarterback, the floor, I expect it to be high. The question is, how high does the ceiling go? Because while he can make the occasional play, as we saw here, there also will be times in which he makes unnecessary mistakes. And I think the best way I can describe what he did in 2023 was he was competent. And that sounds like a dig. It's not. It means that you are dropping back, sitting in the pocket, making your reads, reading the defense, and making your throws based off of what you see. trusting your eyes. That's competent quarterback play. It's not special quarterback play. And that's where the difference can be between Mason Rudolph and Aaron Rodgers, is that Rodgers can still do special things every now and then, while Mason Rudolph, it's not as expected. But the reason for full faith, because they know that he can play within the system. They know that he can make throws while playing in the system. And they also know for a fact, and I know this for a fact, that team will rally around him. 100%. They will have faith. The players, that locker room, will have faith in Mason Rudolph. So, summation here, I expect more competent play from Mason Rudolph, because that's what he's turned into. He's turned into a competent NFL quarterback. Nothing wrong with that. Good to have on the roster, and a good safety net in case things fall through with Aaron Rodgers. So that's the reason why the Steelers have faith in Mason. So, hope you enjoyed this. We'll be back tomorrow. Catch you guys on the Flippity Flip. We'll see you later.